The Adventure of Luther Arkwright, Volume 2. Now, the first volume, this is 1623, which I think is pretty good value. First one is super duper good value, right? Super duper good value. First one is how much? $3.74. Yeah, get this. It's freaking awesome, right? So this is the second volume. So every time I review this, I don't really explain what it is. So you really got, and I realized why when I was going through it. There's a lot of world building here, right? There is a lot of very interesting, high quality world building. This comes from Bryan Talbot's magnum opus to a great extent. This is like this incredibly dense sci-fi action adventure. I wouldn't say romp, but tale, right? And so. Kind of imagine, right? You have to go back to the first one, but kind of imagine a interdimensional James Bond played by David Bowie. That is David Bowie in like 1972. That is the elevator pitch for what Luther Arkwright is. So the Adventure of Luther Arkwright, its main story but it's quite layered. Its main story is about a interdimensional conflict that's going on. You've got one dimension called 0000, where it was kind of like nice and groovy, and they have the most advanced place. Then you got this is mankind, and it's like not held back. And most of the other parallel dimensions have been somehow controlled or infiltrated by these forces called the Disruptors. Right, so you got Luther Arkwright again, who's a very kind of cold James Bondian character who can leap between the different parallel dimensions in this greater war. Right, so the main story of it though is a side quest, which is weird. So I don't know how to pass that. Is the main story of Luther Arkwright and the people of 0000 versus the Disruptors the side quest, or is the meat of this story? So it's hard to tell, but basically it's basically you have the bulk of this story takes place in this one parallel dimension where Cromwell remained in power, right? The Cromwellian family remained in power and become like this fascist despot. And they were upheld by these disruptor forces. So the essential plan is to create a crisis in this parallel dimension that would mean the disruptors would have to send their shock troops in, the rooks. And doing that, the 00 would be able to find their secret base of operations, right? So that's the basic essential idea of it. But the... So you got the main character Luther Arkwright, who's really quite aloof, good looking. Like in the in the first part of it, in the first third, I would say he had this great costume of this World War II flying jacket with like this big fur collar, big leather jacket, and it was very like sci-fi meets steampunk with just fantastic artwork, right? Just absolutely fantastic artwork. One of his companions was Rose Wild, who had the ability of being able to contact the different parallel cells on across the dimension. But like, so you got this famous opening bit again in the first one where they're in a crystal palace and they're like stalking out some like disruptor forces, and there's a firefight between Luther Arkwright and Rose and these two like dodgy disruptor guys. Again, beautiful artwork, and the Bayeux tapestry gets destroyed, and then it cuts to this like reasonably erotic. There's a lot of erotica in the original graphic novel, right? Where you got like Rose Wild. I think she's just wearing a fur coat after they've had like quite vigorous sex by the looks of it, right? And there's lots of like pseudo meditation going on as well. Also, you get this wonderful flashback bits in these 2-page sequences throughout the first book, which tells you about Luther Arkwright's past, how he was raised in this very sterile environment. He was basically kidnapped by these disruptor forces when he was born, because again he's got this natural ability to pass between dimensions. And so it was raised by, in these sterile disruptor base. And then he found out about who he was, and he just instinctively threw himself across the dimensions, and he ended up in our world, essentially, from what I could tell, right? So, and you have his story like interspersed, but the main bulk of it takes place, as I said, in this with this revolution against Cromwell by royalist forces. So that's what the whole book is. That's what the first one is. This is a sequel to that, which takes place again, focusing on this parallel dimension. So it feels somewhat like a side quest again, and it does feel like a bit of a monster of the week thing, right? There are some significant changes made from the original. One really dumb that really annoyed me, right? Because we live in an age where we must have lots and lots of diversity. And this was a very diverse book, right? And female star, essentially his daughter, and female villain, female antagonist. Like there was a very blended group of people, like a very blended cast. So for some reason, they took what the henchman character and they made them into sex swap them, and for a reason that I just can't understand. Right? It just seems like, but why? Right? It's messing up the balance. It does mess up the balance of the whole thing. And also, one of the henchmen was like somebody was it one of the Cray twins? Was like the villain's henchman. Anyway, so that race swap, a sex swap, I think, was just pointless and irritating and very current day. They also stripped out another couple of things from it, which I really like, and I don't really know why. There's a very cool Vatican assassin in the original one, like opens up with him, whose job is to assassinate the Queen. And you got that whole plot that's taken out. They had a reporter from the first book who's back in this second book, and he's with a younger black reporter, right? A younger black female reporter, and it's basically looking at the crux. This is like 20 years after the revolution, so it's coming from the Puritan forces are very black and white and sterile. But so there's been an explosion of life and color and art and like just craziness, which is not crazy. There's life again after this period of repression. There's been explosion of life, but also there's been this deep corruption baked into this new society. Again, this is like after the good guys won. It's 20 years later, and the good guys are rotten as sin. So the one of the main characters of this was Queen Anne, who had gave birth to two children on the battlefield in the climax of the last one. So this is again 23 years later, and it focuses on the kids were Luther Arkwright's kids, right? So Luther Arkwright came out towards the end of it was the next step in human evolution, Homo novus, I think they called them. So which these kids were as well. So the main block of this sequel focuses on his daughter, who is the Prince Royal in a entirely corrupt alternate universe. Right? Do you see how much work I had to do to get you there? How layered and how complex the world is, right? But again, they missed out a couple of things which I really like. The Vatican assassin, who I really like. And also, you had this reporter and his black, not girlfriend, this black female reporter that went with him, and he got into like the institutionalized racism that was brought into society. Like, there's a scene where there's a slave market. Well, are you trying to say that Luther Arkwright is a tomorrow person? Exactly. Just puts his hands on the hip less often. Doesn't have any hair and has a lot more sex than John. And that's a not a high bar. And I'm not talking about just with himself. So anyway, so the one of the biggest hurdles I think I had to get over in this is that Luther Arkwright himself doesn't actually show up till the last third of it. It's all about his daughter's journey, finding out the corruption in the society that she's a leader of, and her own psychic and interdimensional abilities. Right, so they get around that really, really cleverly. Firstly, there's a lot of narration. So narration, because why didn't want to have Luther Arkwright in it? Because it's played by David Tennant. If you got David Tennant on it, you want to hear David Tennant. You don't want him to turn up in the last third. So the narration is done by David Tennant, which is a good conceit. But also on Parallel 0000, you have this like big supercomputer called Wotan, not the same one from the War Games. And when he makes a physical avatar for himself, it's David Tennant doing Luther Arkwright. So he's basically able to be in it for all the discs, which I thought that was quite clever. I just realized this. The character I like, for some reason, he's on the front bloody cover. What the hell? He's the bald guy at the front. He's not in it at all. That is just, it's a crime. India Fisher plays Queen Anne, Victoria's mother, completely corrupt and sexually leeching off everyone of the Scots Guards. In the comic, it was a lot more graphic. Let me say a lot more graphic. So I keep forgetting the plot that they let out. So you got Hiram Kowalski, this news reporter with his black female younger reporter. They end up in bed together, and that's illegal, right? There's this like institutionalized racism. You have like the black slave market. So and they just stripped all that stuff out. And I would have thought that would have been catnip for the world today, because again, that's about social commentary done in a realistic, solid, holistic way. Because this was written in 1999, so way before the era of everything being unwatchable garbage. It's interesting because it's been about 20 years since they did the first one, and some they wanted to get the same cast members in to play the same characters, but they're like some were retired, like Siri O'Neill, who plays Rose Wilder. She had retired. And they make a significant change to the ending, which I actually think improves it a lot, because without this change they did to the ending, it would have. I think the reason this volume of the comic failed more than the first and the very recent release, I think last year, the third volume, is because it feels like a side quest that's a monster of the week. But with the changes they made to the plot with the ending, I thought were very, very strong. They also cut out another really good little subplot where you have like these two nefarious people. Everything focuses around this big celebration of their revolutionary victory. But you've got like this German scientist and alchemist, and they're trying to, and they've worked out how to make a nuclear bomb, which they're going to detonate at the heart of these celebrations. And in the comic, they essentially, when the villain's revealed to be like a mindless monster of the week, they teleport him to another parallel dimension with this nuclear bomb and destroy it that way. Again, it just felt a little bit. So the ending of this one I felt was much more holistic and optimistic. David Tennant gives a great performance, right? He really knocks out the park, and in general, the cast is very good. The woman playing Victoria, I thought was excellent. What's her name? Let's have a look. Was it India Fisher's the Queen is great, but who is Victoria? Georgina Hellier, right? Normally these things are a bit like you have like younger actors a little bit dodgy. Not so much, right? Emma Williams, yeah, not that's the sex swapped Northumberland who was like the second tier villain, in this. And that you do have some, like, how can I explain it? Like revolutionary hippies staging a demonstration, but it does come off a bit like Professor Joe Jones in the Green Death, Doctor in the Green Death, right? Where he's like, down with fascism or down with capitalism. It's a little bit clunky, right? But I tell you, in terms of entertainment, I like this world a lot, right? I like this world a lot. I like this adaptation of the world a lot. I'm really glad they did a second volume. For me, it's a recommend. I think 1623 seems a very reasonable investment, but the other one at like under a $5, freaking awesome, right? Look, what can I tell you? I'm very Jewy, and I can't take the price out of things. Like if something like like my wife's doing our list for my son's wedding right now as a spreadsheet, and we're talking about if we want to invite my brother-in-law's kids, and it turns out to feed 6 of them is going to cost me about 1,000 shekels. That's what, like about $300. I'm like, are you out of your mind? No, I'm not spending $300 on feeding 6 kids. No, that's crazy, and that's with a discount. That's with 2 of them eating free. It just seemed a bit crazy to me. So I can't really divorce myself from the financial ramifications of it, no matter how hard I try. But I think 1623 is definitely fair for the download. If this is a world you haven't got into yet, I really recommend it. Right, really, very much recommend it. Why they didn't put out a video of the? I'm not going to make a video of the trailer. But essentially, this is a very interesting world, very layered world. I would recommend it. Certainly check out the first one. Great performances, great cast. Look, I missed, but Paul Darrow being the villain in the first one was fantastic. But okay, it looks like we're back now. Yes, this one's a recommend, right? This one's a recommend. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.